to our top story. The Pretoria High Court will today rule on an application by the Society for the Protection of our Constitution to allow relief to illegal miners still underground in Stilfontein. Our reporter who is on this story at the court, Canny Maphanga, is following this for us. So, Canny, talk to us. What are the likely outcomes of this legal bid?
Well, good morning to you, Leanne, and to the viewers at home. That all-important judgment that will spell out government's obligations in terms of Chapter 2 of the Constitution that speaks to the Bill of Rights will be delivered this morning in the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria. You may remember that the main application was to secure that final interdict that would spell out those obligations. And in order to obtain that final interdict, they would have had to show the court that they have established a clear legal right, and that if that interdict wasn't granted, irreparable harm would be suffered, and that the balance of convenience favors the applicant. And then, of course, there is no alternative remedy other than to approach the courts, that is the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria, to get that relief for the suspected zamazamas that are still underground. Now, we know that when the application first started in the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria, there was a perceived government stance towards the suspected zamazamas that was received as there would be no assistance to those miners underground. Of course, that position threatened those fundamental rights that are afforded in the Bill of Rights, that is Chapter 2, and it is against that premise that the application was brought to the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria. Of course, they got that interim order that ensured that those retrieval efforts were taking place. And as the days continued, we saw that the position, or rather there was an about turn from government entities on the position towards the suspected zamazamas, and we saw that these efforts are continuing. And as you report this morning, Leanne, there are several more suspected zamazamas that are making it to the surface. So the circumstances upon which the interim order were granted has significantly changed as we speak today. So, of course, this judgment, I'm not sure that it can have any effect, as government is already carrying out its duties in terms of the Constitution. Of course, the court has to be mindful of the fact that it cannot curtail the government entities from performing their function, specifically SABC, in terms of Section 205 of the Constitution, which mandates them to uphold the rule of law. So it'll be a tricky judgment for the court to deliver, but I'm sure it is worth commenting on the obligations of governments to uphold and protect the Constitution, seeing that it is largely due to that interim order that we saw an about turn from government towards the suspected zamazamas, seeing those comments by the minister and the presidency stating that there would be no help and that they would be, quote unquote, smoked out, to what we're seeing today, where those suspected zamazamas are making it to the surface and the government entities are carrying out their duties. So it'll be interesting to see whether they are able to obtain that interdict, or, of course, the application might be dismissed, but the court may take a time or a moment in the judgment to correct or clarify those obligations towards government with respect to Chapter 2 of the Constitution, those fundamental rights afforded to all. Now, we expect that judgment to at least be delivered by 10 a.m. this morning.
All right, Canny, thanks so much as you head out to cover that story for us. Canny Maphanga talking to what we are expecting from the court today. Thanks so much to her.